Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas. Fun story. Every time my family would set up Christmas every year, do you guys have like those stuffed animals or toys that are like Christmas toys that go in the Christmas decorations tub? And then you get it out. Well, we had a Santa Claus that was a little plush toy that you would squeeze and you go, ho, 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 Merry Christmas. And then the kids choir would go, Santa Claus is coming to town. And so this year I got out. We have like little plush toys as well, but they don't sing all of them. And I don't have that toy specifically, but I took a little video and squeezed it and then did it myself just like that and sent it to my mom just because she's sentimental and I'm sentimental and made me think of when we had set up Christmas as kids. And so anyway, fun story that has nothing to do with anything, but I'm very excited for Christmas. How many of you, Christmas is your favorite time of year? How many of you like, nope, not Christmas, anything but Christmas? Anybody? The best way to spread Christmas cheer is so maybe just stand next to somebody who's singing loud and it'll spread to you and from our heart to yours, those of you who are bah humbug about Christmas. But we are in the series called The Countdown to Christmas, and you guys know off the top of your head how many days there are until Christmas? 20! There are 20 days left until Christmas, which is super exciting. We're, in fact, in the month of December, so it's going to be here before you guys know it. There's so much to look forward to during Christmas. There's the Christmas decorations like we talked about. There's Christmas lights, which we're setting up our whole church parking lot with like a whole Christmas light drive-through thing on, I think, the 17th. It's that Friday. And so that'll be fun. You guys should come with your family. We're going to have hot chocolate. We're going to have lots of fun stuff going on then. So there's that to look forward to. There's also the presents under the tree. There's all kinds of things. Seeing family for Christmas. How many of you guys enjoy seeing your family for Christmas? The extended family that you don't maybe get to see all the time. And so there's lots to look forward to about Christmas. But if we're being honest, maybe there's not everything to love about the Christmas season. Like maybe when you have to go and stand in long lines at the store with your parents because they're doing some Christmas shopping. Any of you had to do that yet or have to do that before? That's always fun. Or maybe you have to give up your room for those family members to come stay in. How many of you, that's you? That was always me. I got kicked out of my room to sleep on the couch whenever my grandparents would come for Christmas and any other time of the year, which, wasn't always my favorite thing, but it meant I got to see my grandparents, so that was fun. Maybe there's the disappointment of not getting what you want for Christmas. Any of you, like, you don't want to show it on Christmas. You're like, oh, thank you for these socks and underwear. Just what I wanted, right? Or maybe it's being forced to spend extra time with your siblings while you're off at school. That part maybe not be the most exciting thing ever. So maybe not everything about the Christmas season is all hunky-dory, but there are definitely aspects that are fun and aspects of it that are not fun. I love you guys, right? But I am introverted, and so I don't like crowds. So I know many of you wouldn't guess that about me if you didn't know me super well, but I absolutely hate crazy busyness stores. I don't even like going to the movie theater when nobody goes anymore, sadly. But like when I was younger and you'd wait in line for a big premiere, like that was kind of fun. But like Christmas season, I try to pretty much stay inside all the time because every store is way too busy. The shelves are picked over and people are just rude. You'd think people would be nice around Christmas, but they're not. And so I like to, avoid that. I stay away from people. I stay away from stores if I can help. In fact, that's why I love Amazon so much this time of year. In fact, my middle son, Ezra, his birthday was on the 2nd, so, or the 3rd, sorry, the 4th, yesterday. I know my son's birthday. They're all like within 4 years, and one of them is the second day of the month. Another one is the 3rd day of the month, and another one is the 4th day of the month. But they weren't born in that order, so it takes me a second. His birthday was yesterday on the 4th, and the night before, on the 3rd, he broke one of his favorite toys, which is this monster truck thing. And so we got on Amazon, found one that was like almost exactly like it, and then overnight, we ordered it free with Prime, but it was an overnight, be here in a day thing. 5:35 a.m. the next morning. We ordered it at 10 o'clock at night. And like literally, what is that, 7 hours later, it was here, which is pretty incredible. So we could wrap it up and let Ezra open it. And look, you got a new monster truck to be your favorite toy, which him and his brother continued to fight on all day yesterday. But I like Amazon. I don't have to go into the store to deal with that craziness. I can just deal with it at home. So that's the fun stuff. And the reality is, while there are a lot of good things to look forward to on Christmas, sometimes, if we're being really honest, not everything is the most exciting thing about Christmas. How many of you, it's the most wonderful time of the year. Christmas is the time where like peace on earth and goodwill towards men. Christmas is supposed to be like this peaceful time of year. How many of you guys, you feel like Christmas is peace? Like you think of Christmas and you think, oh, peace. That's a peaceful time of year. How many of you maybe just the opposite? Like, we're told that Christmas represents peace on earth and goodwill towards men. We're told that we're supposed to have the most peace during the Christmas season. But sometimes that's not always the case. And in fact, we often equate peace with our circumstances. And so that's maybe not the best way to think about peace, little preview for what we're going to be talking about today. But I want you to do something with me. We're going to do a little exercise. I want you to just imagine with me what peace looks like in different situations. Okay? So just role play with me. Imagine you live in a country where there's been a lot of violence and fighting between different religions. In the capital city, bombs are going off and people are being killed. What does peace mean for you in that situation? Okay, think to yourselves, don't shout out loud. Just think about that. Okay? Well, let's think about a different situation. You live in a very poor country in Africa. Every day, you and your family struggle to find food and water. Your little sister doesn't go to school because she spends her whole day, every day, walking miles to get water for your family. What does peace mean for you? Okay, another situation. You live in a neighborhood in America ruled by gangs. Drive-by shootings are common, and you even have friends who are shot because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. Even walking to school or playing outside with your friends feels dangerous to you. What does peace mean in that situation? Here's another situation. A family member struggles with drinking alcohol. They sometimes yell or get violent when that happens, and you're terrified. What does peace mean for you? Or think about this situation. Your dad is in the military and is deployed overseas. His base is located in a country that's at war. He's often put in unsafe situations. Since you don't get to talk to him often, most of the time you feel stressed about his safety. What does peace mean for you? Right, and the list could go on and on and on of different scenarios in which real people live all the time. And what does peace mean in those circumstances? And if Christmas season represents peace, then it begs the question, what does peace actually look like in every situation? Because peace is something that God promises to all of us through Jesus, and we're reminded of that every year at Christmas. But so much of the world and so much of life feels like it's not very peaceful. People still are vitriol towards each other. People don't get along. People are angry. People call names. People are rude to each other. What does peace look like in 2021 this Christmas season? That's a question that a lot of people are asking. And maybe if you're honest, it's a question that you're asking. Judging by your show of hands from earlier, when you think of Christmas, not many of you think of Christmas as a particularly peaceful time of the year. So when we're celebrating a season that so often represents peace in our lives, obviously that peace extends throughout the whole year, but at Christmas we remember how true it is in our lives today. So how do we think about peace in a way that actually is true for our lives when there's so much of our world that feels like it's not peaceful? And here's what most of us do. Most of us equate peace with our circumstances. In other words, if things at home are just the way they should be, if everybody's always getting along, in other words, if there is no conflict, that lack of conflict equals peace in our minds. Would you guys agree with that? Peace is the absence of conflict. That's how most of us think about peace. But, spoiler alert, what we're going to talk about today, peace is not just defined by the absence of conflict. Peace is so much richer and deeper and so much more than that. And that's what we're going to talk about today, and that's what the Christmas season has to offer us. So, when we think about peace, it's not just the absence of conflict. It's not just that there's no disappointments, no unexpected events, and no struggles. It's different than that. You know, peace is more than when your friends are all getting along and when things are just working out the way that they should. And when you get the perfect gift for Christmas, peace is so much more and deeper than that. So what makes this difficult is that, like we mentioned earlier, there's often not a lot of peace in our world or in our lives, right? Our parents are going to fight. Our friends are going to start drama. People are going to leave. We're going to run into problems. Our feelings are going to get hurt. We're going to experience disappointment and pain and loss and struggle in all kinds of areas of all of our lives all the time. So if that's the case, it makes us wonder what peace actually looks like and if it's truly possible this side of heaven. Right, obviously, if we're Christians, we believe at some point we're going to die and go to heaven, and there's going to be peace then. Or Jesus is going to come back before we die, and there's going to be peace then. But what if I could tell you that there is a way to have peace before any of that happens? There's peace that you can have in your life, in your family, in your friends, in your school today. And there's peace that Jesus brings that transcends all those circumstances. And to help us understand how this can truly be possible, we have to go back to before the Christmas story existed. Back to before Jesus came as a baby in the manger. We have to go back before any of that happened. And you guys, like, you know, when movies come out with like a prequel and there's like the story behind the story leading up to the real story, right? That's what we have to go to today in order to understand how this peace actually was set into motion before the first Christmas ever happened. So, we're going to go to the book of Isaiah, which is in the Old Testament. And this is what Isaiah said. He was a prophet who spoke to the people on behalf of God. And this is what he says in chapter 9, verse 6. It says, "For to us a child is born, to us a son is given." That sounds like the Christmas story, right? But this was like 500 or 600 years before the Christmas story, which is kind of incredible. "For us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders. And he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace." So he's basically telling the people, hey, you know that Savior that we're all looking forward to? That promise that's coming? Well, guess what? He's going to be born, and he's going to be known by many things, but namely, he's going to be known as, what's the last phrase on that list? Say it louder. The Prince of Peace, right? Now, trust me, his name is more than just a cool title. It carries weight and significance in a time period where God's people were going through a lot of trouble. Okay? This was around the time period where Israel was facing a lot of conflict from their enemies. In fact, the Babylonians had come and taken them captive. There was this period where there was constantly wars, and it felt like there was never going to be any peace. And a lot of the people in Israel were displaced and not with their families, not at home. And there was a lot up in the air when it came to their everyday lives. There was a lot of questions when it came to this idea of peace. So peace sounded very far off when Isaiah wrote this, much like it does in today's world. But he's promising there's going to be a time where the Prince of Peace is going to come, and we're going to be able to make peace with him and with our world and everything that's going on. So fast forward a few hundred years, and the Savior, Jesus, was finally born. Okay? And his arrival was announced by the angels, and they said this in Luke chapter 2. They said, "Glory to God in the highest heaven, and on earth peace to those on whom his favor rests." So here we get this theme again, this idea of peace. Right? Peace. Jesus was born just as was promised hundreds of years earlier in the book of Isaiah. And did that mean that all the conflict stopped? No. In fact, those of you who know the Christmas story, you know that the king at that time heard about this Messiah that was born, he got kind of jealous. He was like, oh, that's a threat because I'm the king. And so that he killed all the boys under 2, right? Do you remember that story? He sent his army and he's like, I'm going to squelch this before it even becomes a thing. There's this promised Messiah who's going to be the king. And no, I'm the king. So he goes and there's conflict because Jesus was born. And what's supposed to be the most peaceful time of year. So unfortunately, peace didn't happen in the way that people expected it to happen. And so people at that time and today still wonder, where was the peace that was promised, right? It's certainly not the kind of peace that I would have imagined would have come into the world at that first Christmas when the Messiah was here, when that Prince of Peace that was promised entered the world. I wouldn't think that it would cause more bloodshed. I wouldn't think that it would cause more unrest. But the peace that Jesus brings is not a piece of what's going on outside of him in the world. The peace that Jesus brought was the peace that was inside of him. It was not based on outside circumstances, but it was brought through Jesus because of his relationship with God. And it's something that he offers to each and every one of us. And so when Jesus comes and he brings this peace, we are reminded of the truth that no matter what's going on today, no matter what's going on in our world, we have a promise. In fact, Jesus promised this to his disciples in John chapter 14. This is what he said to them. He said, peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. I do not give to you as the world gives, so do not let your hearts be troubled and do not be afraid. Jesus is saying this same peace that was promised hundreds of years ago, that is fulfilled through me, I'm giving to you. And he says, don't let your hearts be troubled. The peace I give to you is not the same peace that the world offers. See, the peace that the world offers and the peace that so many of us think about when we think of peace is the absence of conflict. The peace that the world gives is circumstantial. But you and I both know that if we're just going based off our circumstances, peace is going to be very rare. Maybe even in the Christmas season. But the peace that Jesus gives transcends all circumstances, all understanding. It brings comfort, it brings hope, and it will settle our souls to trust that Jesus is everything that was promised. And because of Jesus, there is always peace. Right? That same peace that God promised to send through Jesus is the same peace that Jesus gave to us and left with us. We have his Spirit living inside of us, and because of Jesus, there's always peace. The peace that we celebrate at Christmas every year is the peace that Jesus offers. And it's something that transcends, like I said, all of our circumstances. It can carry us through our circumstances even when it's hard. It's the kind of peace that gives us comfort and courage when things feel like they're out of control. It's the kind of peace that allows us to look at the hard things in our lives and know that Jesus is with us and that it's going to be okay. And it's the kind of peace that is only possible through Jesus, because Jesus changes everything, including the way that we look at peace, including the way that we are able to live at peace in a world that is so absent of it. Because of Jesus, there is always peace. Now, I know that may sound like one of those things that you would expect to hear at church, but doesn't actually affect your real life. But let me tell you from personal experience that it does. That there's a kind of peace that is found in Jesus that makes even the most broken of circumstances have you meet with people that have had a lot of bad things happen in their lives, and it seems like you should have no peace, but sometimes it seems like they're the most peaceful people that there are. And it's only possible because of Jesus. See, the reality is life is going to get hard. There's going to be things in life. Many of you have experienced things in life that you frankly shouldn't have to experience ever, let alone at your age. But life is hard sometimes. Sometimes parents get divorced. Sometimes friends say hurtful things. Sometimes The people that we love will leave us. Sometimes things in life will let us down. War and poverty and death all exist in our world, but our circumstances, while they are anything but peaceful, those are out of our control. We can't control our circumstances. We can't control other people. And so our peace should not be based on our circumstances. Right? Instead, our peace should be based on what is true. Our peace should come from something that is real and something that transcends our circumstances. Peace should come from something within and not based on what's going on around us. And through Jesus, we have that promise. Peace that won't change our circumstances, peace that will help us handle our circumstances. Let me say that again. Right? The peace that Jesus offers is peace that won't change our circumstances, but it is peace that will help us handle our circumstances. And that's an important distinction. Because Jesus, of all people, he knows what it's like to not have peace. In fact, he came into the world and war was brought simply because of that fact. Jesus came and he taught the gospel and it turned people against them. It turned the religious leaders of that day against him. Jesus had the whole Roman government against him, eventually crucified him. Jesus, who one of his closest followers even betrayed him. Jesus, who's supposed to be peace, knows what it's like to live in unrest. Jesus, the Prince of Peace, was crucified shamefully and hung on a tree to die. That seems like it's the farthest thing from peace. But what we know by the empty tomb is that peace is something that transcends all of our circumstances, and it's something that can only be found in our risen Savior. And it's because of Jesus that there is always peace. Peace that won't change our circumstances, but will give us the ability to handle our circumstances. So ask yourself, are there areas in your life where peace just doesn't seem possible? Right? Maybe it feels like you'll never make your mom or your dad proud enough. Or maybe it feels like your family will never be able to afford what you need. Or your best friend will never apologize for what they did to hurt you. Or maybe you'll never be able to overcome that anxiety that seems to cripple you on a daily basis. Whatever it is for you, consider where peace feels impossible in your life right now, and then ask yourself this. When it comes to that part of your life, what would it look like to experience the kind of peace that Jesus brings? What would it look like in your life to allow this Christmas season to transform you in a way that it never has before? What would it look like for peace in your life to overtake all the situations in your life that feel like there will never be any peace? Maybe it means praying for the person who frustrates you. Maybe it means pausing to talk to Jesus when you're getting angry. Maybe it means choosing to be kind to that friend that said something incredibly hurtful to you or about you. Maybe it means talking to someone who can encourage you of what's true even when you're anxious or scared. Maybe it's simply asking Jesus to provide the peace when you feel like you can't find it. But whatever it is for you, commit to trying it. Commit to trying to experience the peace that Jesus promised this Christmas. And remember that because of Jesus, peace is always possible. Because of Jesus, peace is always possible. So, as you guys get ready to go to your small groups, I would encourage you to think through those couple of questions. Think about where that applies in your life and how not only you could, and maybe you don't feel like you're absent of peace in your life. Maybe you feel like, I do have peace. You know, this lesson isn't for me. But think about how you can bring peace to somebody else. That hope and that peace that you have because of Jesus, think of ways that maybe you can go along to other people and encourage other people. Maybe people in your small group, maybe people at home, maybe people in your school. Think about ways that you can be a person that represents peace the way that Jesus was. So, as you go to your small groups, what's one area in your life where you'd like to experience more peace? What's one area in your life where you'd like to experience more peace? I want you guys to think about that. I'm going to pray for you, and then you'll be dismissed to your small groups.